All right, Terry, are you ready? Are you joining us, Terry? Are you here? Ready to go? Awesome.
Hey Daniel, just checking my
I can hear
airport.
I can hear you loud and clear. All right. So hi everyone. Thanks very much for joining us for this webinar. Obviously you've been familiar with webinars. There's a place for Q&A for you to ask questions as you go along. We'll at the end of this webinar answer those questions as best as we can. Mostly on topic questions, but if you've got general life questions, then we can also answer those too as best we can. All right. So let me just start off here. So I'm Dan from Leonardo. If you don't know me, and I look after marketing. And joining me today is Terry, and Terry is our head of technology. So thanks for being here, Terry.
Yep, thank you for organizing this.
All right. So this is a first of our webinar series, which we're kicking off on a Wednesday. We're all about the alliteration here at Leonardo. So this is our Wednesday weekly webinar series, and I struggle to even get that out of my mouth. So today we're going to be talking about intelligent process automation. And coming up over the next few weeks, we've got webinars around process mining, RPA, serverless architecture, AI. We'd encourage you to join us. There's a landing page that you would have been sent out where you can sign up for those webinars individually, and um, uh, we'll be adding new webinars to that. Until we're released from lockdown and we can go back to the pub. So what are we going to talk about today? So I suppose our reflection is the world's gotten smaller in isolation. We've gone from a mode of being outdoors to being indoors. And so we can't do the things we used to do. I look at my friends' social media pages, and they seem to be doing sort of three things: mostly baking, sourdough and stuff, binging that sort of Tiger King thing on Netflix, and I hear good and bad things about that, and also just learning stuff, new stuff. And so our team have been discussing this, and we've sort of been reflecting on, in a time of crisis, the stuff that forces you to think about new ideas, and being internal and being in a remote location, you find new ways to do things, like food sourcing or interacting with family and friends, and sort of helping your kids learn. So I've got three kids at home, and I can tell you it's anything from that, but straightforward at the moment in my household. Terry, tell me how you've improved your homeschooling experience in your house.
I'm pretty sure everybody is doing homeschooling now, has a war story to tell. But we actually literally ran out of tables in my house. So what I did was actually I found a bench chair, and that's now my kids' study table. And you probably know there's a Hello Kitty here. She is my kid's classmate.
So that's, I suppose that's a real life example of improving the customer experience. That being Terry's daughter, not through some massive big bang change, but just identifying, I suppose, her pain point and applying what he had on hand. That being the seat. Limited resources inside the house. So, and by using empathy, he's understood her needs, i.e., she's missing her classmates, and so using the Hello Kitties to form those classmates. She's, I hope, got better learning outcomes maybe. So I suppose that that's a personal example. What is it? We're here to talk about business, I suppose. So what's that? What does that look like in our business realms? So I think this is similar to the way that Atlassian sort of stepped in and helped the government as they rolled out the COVID WhatsApp service. So if you remember, many weeks ago there was a problem with communication stream coming from the government, and so how Atlassian helped was by using an existing platform that already had a wide install base, and they sort of rapidly deployed this service to get information out. And it's a pretty simple service. You press one, you get some news and bits and pieces. But it's mostly all about innovating and deploying rapidly to improve on the experience or the desired experience from the community. So yeah, on that idea of innovation, here's a recent article written about looking at CIOs and looking at the impact of COVID on sort of tech effort, and you can sort of see the information there on the screen. But I suppose that the sort of top line for me is that technology and innovation go hand in hand to dealing with a crisis, and kind of solving problems and creating new opportunities to market. Terry, what do these results mean for you?
Yeah, so I just deep dive a little bit into, so what you're actually surveying is that from the CIO perspective after the COVID-19, what area of business that they think the technology effort is going to increase dramatically, and dramatically being 6.4, meaning I'm going to be 64% extra effort into it. So the bottom line of this is that, after this global lockdown, company will really accelerate adoption of the innovation that already in the pipeline, but also accelerate effort to innovate through technology. I think these are the two bottom line out of this survey.
Yeah, great. So I suppose today we're going to talk about two things. You've seen the webinar invite, and we're going to talk about customer experience, process automation, intelligence, and empathy. And so stringing all of those wonderful words together, I suppose for us, it's really about enabling digital business. And I suppose the role that customer experience and human experience and process automation plays in all this. So what is this digital business that we're talking about? So this is how Gartner sees the imperatives of modern IT. Okay, they've got digital business, they've got DevOps, they've got cloud leverage. So improving customer experience is the reason why digital business is the imperative for modern IT. So I suppose this is us interpreting Gartner. Don't hate us, Gartner. So we really sort of see that digital business is at the pinnacle of modern IT, and those elements that Gartner talked about, DevOps and cloud leverage, are the sort of supporting foundations or the enabling pieces of this. So I understand why why digital business is important, but Terry, how does digital business fit into an IT strategy?
Yeah, so before I answer that, Daniel, I think you mentioned Atlassian just earlier. So why do you think they are an example of a digital business?
Well, firstly, I'm supposed to be asking the questions here, but okay. So if you ask me this question, what's an example of a digital business? I suppose that you continuously improve, you evaluate new ideas, and you adapt to market demand. So you can. So like they did, they could deploy rapid change very quickly.
Yeah, I think you have highlighted something really important here. So it's adapting to market initiative effectively and efficiently. And what you describe is really how a company should organize their applications to support their market initiative. And you know what? Gartner have another model, and I promise this is the last of the two models. Is actually very useful to describe these organizations, right? So the model here you see here is called a base layer approach. The model outlines a way to organize your applications in not by the functionality, but by the urgency in which that application need to make changes. So if you look at this red line over here on the graph, so that red line is indicating that as we move through, blue and green and yellow applications, the more to the right, meaning that it needs to be more flexible and more speedy in terms of changes. So the way some of you might already familiar with this model, but the way I sort of remember this is that the system of records are for implementing common ideas, system of differentiation are for better ideas, and system of innovation are for new ideas, right? So digital business, what we talk about here, it's really about being responsive to meet the market demand. So therefore, by architecting the systems in such a way, and we place them in differentiation and innovation, category, we can obtain the flexibility and speed needed for digital business, such as Atlassian.
So in the case of Atlassian being a digital business, they've sort of created this COVID app, I suppose, in a rapid way. Their app is in the system of innovations. Is that correct?
Yeah, you got it. That's right.
So the takeaway here is mature digital businesses are able to architect, identify, and operate this system of differentiation and innovation effectively to, I suppose, better the customer experience. So what is digital business anyway? So I suppose we understand the required behavior of the digital business. Okay, so we've got the inputs here on the left. We understand what's required to support a digital business. So these are the outputs on the right, and we know what's required to support. You know, the yeah we I suppose the question we're going to ask ourselves is going back to our original statement, the aim of modern IT is enabling digital business, but what is digital business to IT? We've got plenty of IT people who are on this call. What does it practically look like for them? And what's the stuff that's going to be required for IT that lives inside this grey circle?
Yeah, so what's inside this gray circle is essentially the anatomy of digital business. So there are four key technology areas, as you can see on the screens. This technology area provides the IT functionality required by the digital business. And through this technology, it will provide an interface with the organization stakeholder, such as customer, employee, and partners. And this interface create a relationships between the organization's technology and its stakeholders. Through these engagements between the technology and the stakeholders, the organization create an experience. This experience then in turn are guided and driven by the process that orchestrate the four technology areas.
I think I understand this, but so if I'm interpreting this in the context of like my call center, okay, so you're telling me that like in that experience of me calling up the call center trying to fix my internet, that when they're putting me on hold and saying that they value my time and they're really sort of jumping between systems, they're stalling for time. Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. In fact, the call center is most likely, the people that is answering call, trying to breach the process by manually jumping between the technology areas. And obviously that creates, a lag and a bad experience for you. Some call center staff are better trained than the others, but there is going to be inconsistency in your experience with those call centers. So you know what? After all these explanations, really at the heart of the people, the process, and technology is intelligence. And what is intelligence? Intelligence is our capacity to acquire an accurate and deep understanding of the world and apply to our actions, right? I know it's a lot of big words. So why don't I give you an example, right? Let's go back to 1970, just before I born. In a milk bar next to my house.
Hey Kelly, how are you today? Just the milk?
Yes, just the milk for today.
That would be $3. Cash or card?
Card.
How's your baby?
She's good, not sleeping enough.
Oh, that's no good. Sounds like you need some more time to get your rest for yourself. While you're here, would you like to get some nappies today?
Yes, that's a good idea. Save me a trip. 2 boxes, thanks.
So clearly no social distancing back then. All right, so I think I understand. So Kelly's the happy customer because Peter and Jane are providing a smooth, delightful experience for her. So if I look at what did Peter do right? Well, Peter understands Kelly's needs and he's like perfectly executed the order to cash process. We're process people, we think like that. So he knows how to use the machine, however old it is. He's applied insight to cross-sell Kelly with additional nappies. It's a win-win situation. She doesn't have to come back and get the nappies, and obviously he's sold more product. So it's an example of a well-executed interaction, has a great user experience supported by process and intelligence. Okay, so given what you said back before, Terry, can you elaborate on how this example relates to the anatomy of visual business?
Yeah, so the anatomy has 3 layers. I think of this layer not architecture, not technology, but the layers of detail describing a user experience. So on the top, we got these experience layers. It is engagement with your stakeholders. And in this case, it's a conversation, for example, or even the smell of your milk bar store. The process layer is providing the fabric that ties your user experience with the service that you're providing to them. In this case, maybe the cashiers, the counter, and also maybe the process of the NAPI buying process, I suppose. The last is the intelligence, and intelligence is the insight and the value that you have embedded in the process to deliver the experience. In this case, Peter applied his insight on Katie and embed the recommendations as part of the checkout process. Like he's trying to do this without being, creepy. So having a process such as this will improve the consistency of the user experience. Having a little bit of insight, like what Peter has done here, creates affinities, trust, and actually, delight to the customers.
Yeah, okay, so I understand this. Like Peter and Jane are, are providing a superior customer experience, but like this is pretty old school. Like it's not digital business. Like it's pretty analog. It's not digital business though.
Yeah, it's absolutely retro, but it has a lot of elements of digital business, but it's not digital business. Let me sort of give you another example. Now we fast forward to today, and pre-COVID-19 is now very successful, and it's a chain of supermarket store with lots of market share, and products say online available, and you also deliver to home. But the customer satisfactions is not as good as Milk Bar. Is the difference between this Milk Bar and also the supermarket.
Sorry, you seem to be breaking up a bit there, Terry, but so you're sort of asking me what the difference between these two supermarkets are. So I would sort of say, between the Milk Bar and this one, I would say that I've been to that shop and I've stood in that line, long queues. So it's much less intimate, but I suppose I don't expect the same experience. I don't expect the same experience at the supermarket that I get at, say, my local coffee shop or the Milk Bar. They're a big multi-chain. Like, how can they possibly give the same experience as the Peter and Jane type of store?
Yeah, I mean, to save bandwidth, I just turn off my video, so saving everybody looking at me. But Daniel, you're right. So that is the right questions. How can the cashier Molly over here provide and replicate the experience of what Peter and Jane provided in 1970 while keeping up this long queue of customers? Really, the focus on increasing market share really overwhelmed the business ability to replicate the experience. And this result only replication of their user experience. If we look at what's underneath the anatomy, the truth is that as the business grows and scale, it is difficult to replicate the depth of the experience.
Yeah, so I suppose as the marketing guy here, they try to provide this in the marketing. People in the advertising, they're in like check shirts and aprons, and they're greeting you at the door. But I suppose in-store intelligence is hard to replicate here. So Terry, do you think that the depth and scale can be improved for all businesses? I mean, like we all have limited resources, especially now. We can't do everything at once. Like, I suppose, where do we start?
Yeah, I mean, like every company is unique in what they consider critical for their customers' experience, right? So if you are airline, you'll be different from the grocery store. So that's why identifying a concept called micro moments in the customer journey, like the one you're seeing here, is the best place to start.
Okay. So I see our clients across the industry and the verticals that we work in. They have a strong interest in delivering like superior customer experiences, and they have a map just like this one. But where would the micro moment be on such a map like this, Terry?
Yeah, if you look at this map, there is a very angry face, and the point where the customer gone from slightly unhappy to extremely unhappy in a very, very short succession. That's where the micro moment happens.
So what would be the cause of such a, I suppose, a bad micro moment?
Yeah, so when we talk to our customer and work through the issue with them, often we found the root cause is very deep down within the monolithic backend applications. Because the micro moments are often instigated by the customers, ad hoc and event-driven, and they are usually, obviously, out of scope for most of the monolithic applications.
Okay, so I understand. So I understand we're a focus, on to our resources to improve our customer experience, like what you've talked about here in these type of micro moments. But I suppose, can you elaborate a little bit more on the intelligent part of this?
Yeah, so I mean, the AI played a very big role in how we scale. So if you go back to 1970s experience, there's really no way to train 1,000 models to mimic Peter and James, right? We will certainly fail if we try to do that.
So yeah, so I suppose the only way we can do that really is to scale human intelligence is using, I suppose, technology.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about technology, in this case, we do need using artificial intelligence.
All right. So I've heard it. Yeah, I mean, I've read those papers on AI. Just give me like a quick overview about what that means to you, AI.
Yeah, so I actually did study AI when I was in uni, but artificial intelligence has lots of categories, but there are 3 categories being advanced dramatically in the last few years. These 3 categories are being the machine learnings. So this is a problem solving large amount of data and provides a correlation that the outcome is sort of unclear. So you can look at insurance claim and even try to estimate the birth weight of the baby. So the second category is neural language processing. So this is where Siri and Alexander sits. The last one is robotic, which is a lot more obvious. It's helping the human to do a little physical task. I think these 3 categories are being advanced, especially commercially, more than the other categories, are because they really improve human experience, I suppose.
Okay, so I hear a lot about how these terms and how we all should be using AI. So if intelligence means using technology to enable that more human experience, we've talked about human-centric experience. This isn't a new thing. We've been talking about that ever since I started working, which was a while ago. What makes it different now?
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, I was in uni, and this is the big thing. But I think only in the last 3 to 5 years, the amount of data and processing power that we got today really made this possible. So if you look at the data, right? So right now we can collect a lot more data, and in fact we've been storing a lot more data as well. And with those data, we got computing power that need to process those data and make sense out of it. And the processing power in the last 3 years has, especially commoditizing the processing power in the cloud, make it really difficult, very easy to actually scale. And the last one is the algorithm. I guess there's a lot more data scientists around, and they can iterate on their ideas through different algorithms much faster today.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right, so let's look at an example. So this is one we built that showcases a common travel delay. When we used to fly. So how an airline can turn a negative customer experience into a positive one using intelligence, process automation, and try and utilize or deploy that sense of empathy and how they do that. So I understand the video audio wasn't great for the last one. So just sing out if this needs to be turned up or turned down from your perspective. Should be okay. Thanks.
In terms of financial performance, the airline industry is perhaps more volatile than any other. Simple cost drivers like the price of aviation fuel can boost or destroy profitability. The growth of budget airlines has heaped pressure on full-service carriers, and competition is as tough as it's ever been. Airlines have to respond quickly to business and market change. Retaining customers, particularly those who fly regularly, is a key imperative. Every part of the customer journey, from considering to booking a flight to checking in, and from the flight itself to collecting baggage, are all crucial touch points that will affect whether the passenger is more or less likely to fly with that airline again. Being able to respond quickly to business and market changes is difficult when it's time-consuming plus expensive to test and deploy changes. Tim is a platinum frequent flyer with Ace Airlines. Imagine his delight at receiving an SMS informing him that he has received a complimentary upgrade to business. Imagine the delight of Ace Airlines CIO that the business rule that recommended Tim receive this upgrade was written and deployed in just days. Laura is a silver frequent flyer with Ace Airlines. Laura is disappointed that her flight has been delayed by 4 hours. But her disappointment melts away when she receives a barcode that lets her access the Ace Airlines passenger lounge. Off to the lounge she goes. We deployed Red Hat Process Automation Manager, 3Scale, API Cast, and several Node.js applications to the OpenShift container platform on Azure to develop our own airline customer experience demo for the fictional Ace Airlines. This process enables Ace Airlines to personalise its interactions with its frequent flyers. This is our custom work item handler, which loads environment-specific properties. This is the multi-instance sub-process, one of which runs for each frequent flyer. Here we retrieve a passenger's frequent flyer details. Business rules determine the event-relevant message for each passenger. Here, we can translate an outbound message to the passenger's preferred language. We get an auth token and send them an SMS message if that's their preferred communications channel. We can also send an MMS, such as a barcode voucher. In parallel, we can also send messages to Ace Airlines related parties, such as a departure board. Ace Airlines can send messages that are personalised based on the business rules that reflect the event, the nature of the event, and the frequent flyer's status. A silver frequent flyer who has no lounge privileges might receive a food voucher for a 4-hour delay, which we can easily change into a lounge access voucher for a delay of 4 hours or more. If I've specified that German is my preferred language, then the message determined by the business rules is then translated to German. And here we create a mock departure board to show that we can respond to events like a flight delay or gate change and extend our personalised rule-based messaging to other Ace airline departments, such as catering, or to related parties, such as departure boards.
Okay, so I understand the micro moment in this example. You know, they've had a good experience checking in, I assume. They've had a bad flight delay, bad experience because they had a flight delay. There's been a proactive event of the airline to understand the impact of a 4-hour delay, and they've tried to improve that experience by providing that lounge pass to Laura. So, I suppose, without technology, could we improve an experience like this? Probably not. There's many passengers. It's hard to scale humans to do this and be as quick as technology can be. So I suppose tech enables us to provide a human-centered, intelligence for Laura's situation. So, Terry, you helped build this. How did you approach the delay scenario to architect to improve the customer experience for this example?
Yeah, so I like to start with the intelligence and move my way up. So with the so we emphasized firstly with the passenger by understanding the impact to them, and then apply insight to improve the sentiment. I'm expecting a diagram on the right hand side. Daniel.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. Here's the fancy animations. Yeah, so obviously, we understand that because of the delays, it'll be very helpful to provide things like lounge invitations, And if you are stuck in a foreign airport that speaks English all the time, I mean, German will help, even Chinese, and also food voucher. Right? People does get hungry, especially me. So then what happened is we codify these insights into the process. And that's where Daniel was just mentioning. We really can't train every single board departure handling airline employee to actually do this. So we codify those insights as part of the process. We standardize the process, and then understand where the micro moment will impact individuals. And then we scale this process in a consistent way. And finally, with all of this, we can improve the customer's experience.
Oh, cool. Yeah. All right. So on a side note, Leonardo, I've already given the thing away by advancing the slide, but we won an award for this example. There was a global competition looking to solve customer experience problems using open source technologies, and so we won out of 400 entries, which was a pretty big deal for us. And it's also part of the thing we do here at Leonardo in terms of contributing to the open source community with projects such like this. All right, so to wrap it up, so what's the takeaway here in this presentation, Terry?
Yes, it's takeaway because we can't dine in anymore.
No, we can't.
The first thing is, so when should we act? We should act now because there is a accelerated transformation to digital business after this COVID-19. I think that's the first thing. And the second thing is, what is this experience that we talk about all the time? So experience is guided and driven by the process. And at the heart of this people process technology is intelligence. And the third takeaway is, what's this intelligent process automation mean? So intelligent process automation is a process or are processes that are more flexible, faster, and adaptable to the behavior and the preference and the needs of their user through AI and driven by the use of real-time data. And finally, why intelligent process automation is the key to improve customer experience. I believe a well-executed process will improve the consistency of the experience. But with just a bit of insight, it's going to delight the user.
Excellent.
That's pretty much.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Terry. I've noticed we've got a few questions, so just let me try and move all the technology to the front without destroying the presentation. So we've got one from Brett. Thanks, Brett, for coming along and sticking with us for the time we've done here. Do you think that the experience can really scale in the physical world rather than a virtual one?
Yeah, I know we've been talking about digital experience quite a bit, but really the physical world is increasingly connected to the virtual ones. For example, I can't imagine paying my coffee with a coin anymore. So this morning I paid using Apple Pay, right? And in fact, I was so drawn to Apple Pay, or user experience of Apple Pay, I really refuse to visit a coffee shop that doesn't have Apple Pay, because I choose my experience, and that's what we're going to see in the future. People choose their experience, and I suppose the question is, was it possible to scale Apple Pay? Yeah, of course, with technology.
Cool. Another one here from Stuart. Stuart, thanks for joining us, Stuart. Would be good to hear your views about the use of structured and unstructured data re-experience process intelligence. Any thoughts there, Terry?
Yeah, so I think the obviously the structured and unstructured data. And I think sometimes the choice is not ours to make, right? Obviously, I would love to have structured data, but we don't have structured data all the time. And I think with unstructured data, there is a few ways to make it more consumable. And with artificial intelligence, with a bit of algorithm, you can sort of pick up the pattern if you know what you're looking for. And I think the world are a lot more unstructured than structured. So that's what.
Cool. Just a reminder, if you've got any other questions, just chuck them in the Q&A. We've got a couple more from Simone. Terry, you talk about this iterative approach to improving customer experience. Really like the concept. However, before I start finding the opportunity, is there a set of technology that needs to be put in place?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I mean, today we purely talk about concepts, but I suppose the question is, what technology foundation is required to improve customer experience? So firstly, to improve customer experience, we don't need new technology. I mean, based on my personal experience, I found a bench and I applied for it. I guess a bit of imagination can get us started. And I think at some point in time, though, on that journey, you will need technology, because it helps you to scale and adapt to your needs much faster. Obviously, every organization is different, and if you look around and want to be aggressive, adopting this intelligence and the leverage of intelligence to provide better user experience, then there's a lot of open source AI software out there we can look into. Yeah.
And the last question we have here is from Luke. Luke said, you mentioned 4 technology areas. How are those technology areas relevant to digital business?
Right. I sort of scanned through what the 4 technology areas are.
You go back to that
are
slide.
you always able to? Yeah, so if you can, I can't remember which slide. Maybe
is that one?
Number 8. Yeah. Actually, yes. There you go. So I think the 4 technology area, what's been indicated here are customers, things, IoT systems, and ecosystems. I think they are sort of related to the stakeholders that are over there. So, for example, the IT systems are the system that supports your day-to-day business operation, right? System with record, and that's more related to employees. If you move the one above it is ecosystem. So this is the system that extends your organization's, I guess, reach through partnerships. And you can extend those reach through relationships. I mean, having coffee with your partners all the time, or you can extend that with technology, like digital portal, right? And if you move to the left more, there's a customers. I think this is obvious. This is the system where you keep your customer happy, and that's something that a lot of companies are looking to do. And there's also things which is less obvious for digital company, but I can imagine. So things are everything that you need to use to interact with your customer, employee, and if you're purely digital business, you still have things such as, I guess, the laptop that you issue to your employee, right? So this all creates interface and their experience. So yeah, that's the 4 technology area. I hope that answered the questions.
Yep, I understand it. So that's good. All right, another one from Trang. Thanks for joining us, Trang. If you're designing a future experience for customers, do you necessarily need to map out the current state first, or start at the end goal and understand transition requirements?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So I guess this is depending on how complex your as is. So for example, I know my end goal is for my kids to learn at home, right? So that been the end goal. Do I understand my as is situation? Yes, because it's simple. But if I don't understand my as is situation, it's sort of hard to know whether or not I got table available. However, if you actually, your house is very big. My house is very small, but if your house is really big and you are stuck in one area where you have a ton of visions, then I guess you can't do the entire survey. I think the key here is to identify the identifiable micro moments and apply resource that you already have got, and then just improve from there. But obviously, at some point in time, knowing what you're dealing with is important as well.
All right. That's it. That's the questions. We've gone. We've done our half an hour. We've had some questions. I think that's it. There's anything else for you to add, Terry?
No, I mean, thank you for organizing this, Daniel. This is very good.
No problem. All right. Well, just the plug for next week, the 2-second plug for next week. We've got the process mining to improve operational efficiency in a time of global crisis. That will be hosted by Ian Edwards, one of our team, and Professor Marcella LaRussa, who's the CEO and founder of Apromore, who's going to be talking through that and how you can use process mining to do some very, very cool process discovery. And so we'll, apart from that, you can go and sign that up for that, at the landing page that you would have all sort of seen here. If you've, we'll send out that to you via email over the next week. You'll also get a link so that if you want to revisit something that's been talked about in this presentation, you can watch it on replay. Other than that, thanks so much for joining us this Wednesday, and hopefully see you next Wednesday. Thanks, everyone.